Well, hi. How are you doing today? Hopefully you enjoyed those two chapters. We're meeting someone new. It almost feels like a new introduction. It feels like part one was kind of like that introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, but we really didn't have a resolution. We're kind of heading our way back up the hill again. And that's what good books do. As you get older and read more sophisticated books, we talked about this in class earlier this year, how you could have two parallel tracks going on in your story plot where you have subplots going on while you have the main plot going on, and they seem to take their own twists and turns, but then at the end they all come back together. In this case, with part one, part two, and then part three, it feels like three short stories that are kind of like continuing the same thread, and they kind of build to the end. It's amazing stuff. Anyway, so we met Grayson. He's kind of cool. I like him. Um, Jeffrey, after he left, he went and stayed at the zoo again. And it talked about the kid looked terrible. His clothes were scraps, rags. Wherever his body showed through, it was bony, dirty, scratched. That's the author's way of letting you know time has gone by. When he left the morning after all of the confetti, he had been living with the Beals. He certainly wasn't scrawny and bony because Mrs. Beale fed him well. His clothes, she would never allow him to be walking around in tattered rags. How long do you have to wear your clothes and be out on your own, homeless, to be looking like this? Several weeks, a month or two. So time has gone by. Anyway, so he meets up with this guy, Grayson, and he's really in bad shape when Grayson finds him. Um, the guy, instead of putting him in the truck and taking him to a hospital, he takes him to the equipment room, the band shell. I picture this room to be kind of like Mrs. Michaelis's office back behind the stage there, where she keeps all of like the balls and the jump ropes and the scooters and all that kind of stuff. Picture a space like that, but at a park where the baseball equipment is kept. And he says, let's see. He took, with a trembling, dusty fingers, he touched the kid's limp, scrawny hand. He had never held, never really touched a kid's hand before. That tells you something about this old man. If he's never touched another kid's hand before, he's never been a dad, he's never been an uncle, never been a grandfather. So he's on his own too. That's pretty significant. So he gives the kid um, some soup and what else? There was soup and what? He gave him soup and something, some cup of soup. I don't know. I forget what else oh, and a Zep. He gave him a cup of soup and then he gave him a Zep, which is a kind of sub. And afterwards, he asked for some butterscotch crimpets. I told you I was going to talk about this on the last video and I forgot. Butterscotch crimpets are a snack cake, kind of like a Twinkie, but not really. They are that kind of, you can buy them, they are real. You can buy them, I think I've seen them at Walmart, I've seen them at Miller's. I don't know about IGA, I don't shop there very often. But anyway, they're made by a company out of Pennsylvania, where our book is set, called Tasty Cake, and which is kind of like Hostess or Little Debbie. And they're these little yellow cakes with butterscotch frosting on them. I don't think they had whipped cream in the middle. They may have. I don't think they did. I think they were just like little short cakes with butterscotch flavored frosting on them. They're pretty good. You can get butterscotch, you can get chocolate, vanilla maybe. I don't know. But anyway, they're pretty neat. Check them out next time you're at the store, whenever that is, because that's not something we do anymore. Um, let's see. So we know that Grayson is on his own and he's decided that he works at the zoo and let's see. Grayson got him the crimpets and he takes them to him to where he stays at the YMCA. The YMCA is a place kind of like the rec center, but it's the Young Men's Christian Association. There are YWCAs as well, Young Women's Christian Associations. They were developed back in the Great Depression and they weren't originally rec centers. They were places where if you were homeless, you could go get a room there really, really cheap, kind of like a hotel, more like a shelter. Um, they had locker rooms with showers. They had a kitchen with all of the plates, cups, silverware, pots, and pans that you could need. The refrigerator and stove were available to you. You could buy your own food, or sometimes they even had a food pantry there for people who needed it. And they are still around today. I know the one in Sandusky recently closed. It had operated as a rec center for a long, long time, and I think they finally lost their funding and they had to close. But I know in bigger cities, the YMCA's are still around where you can get these very inexpensive rooms and stay. So this is where Grayson takes Jeffrey. And we see a little bit of Grayson's character. He's a bit of a jokester, isn't he? We talked about, calling in the army to haul away his stinky clothes, and they had to put him in a box and, drop him into a mine shaft because they were so bad. Grayson asks him about school, and Jeffrey's like, I'm not going. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why doesn't he want to go? And he said it had something to do with school seems sort of like a big home, but only a day home because then it empties out and you can't stay there at night because it's not really a home. And you could never use it as your address because an address is where you stay at night, where you walk right in the front door without knocking, where everybody talks to each other and uses the same toaster. So all the other kids would be heading for their homes, their night homes, each of them, hundreds flocking from schools like birds from a tree, scattering across town, each breaking off to his or own place, each knowing exactly where to land. School, home. He wasn't going to have one without the other. Without, it would be really hard every day at the end of the school day to see everyone leaving and having a place to go and you having nowhere to go. We miss our home away from home right now, school. So we kind of can relate to what he's saying. Um, School is almost like a home. And I think that's why we're hurting so bad since we can't be there. Um, but for him, it wasn't about school, it was about not having a place to go to at night. Um, and Grayson kind of felt good that he said, if you make me go, I'll run away because the kid obviously wants to stay with him, which is something new to him, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so we'll find out more about Grayson and their relationship tomorrow. I didn't want you to have to read too many chapters since I had you guys do the newsella on racism and why people choose to live where they live. That was kind of interesting, wasn't it? Hmm, that sounds like a really good topic for our class discussion in the comments section. Tell me your thoughts on that, what you read in the newsella about how people decided where to live in cities as people moved into cities and things like that. I think that's kind of interesting. So give me some thoughts about that. And I will see you next time. Have a great day. Stay healthy and kind. I'll see you next time. Bye.